Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Global Atheist News Roundup, dateline 4th of March 2023. Today's headlines. Former pastor of Holiday Church of Christ, Joshua Henley, pleaded guilty to child sex crimes. Former Lenoir City pastor loses his bid to overturn his sexual assault conviction. Sacred Coronation oil will be animal cruelty free. Earlier this week, we had the following items. Settlers rampage in West Bank villages after Israelis killed. Mysterious wave of sickness hits Iranian schoolgirls amid speculation over poisoning. A chaplain who was reported as a terrorist for questioning LGBTQ activists digs in for a legal battle. Campaigners hail the law raising the age of marriage to 18 in England and Wales. Holy queer author seeks black church inclusion beyond just singing with the choir. New York mayor dismisses the separation of church and state. British Columbia pastors are protesting the delivery of sexual orientation and gender identity information in schools. A mosque would have done anything to prevent the Manchester Arena attack. In Tennessee, Joshua Henley, former pastor of Holiday Church of Christ and Holiday Elementary Girls basketball coach, pleaded guilty to an 8-count federal indictment of child sex crimes and has been sentenced to 45 years in prison. Also in Tennessee, David Richards, no relation, was convicted in 2019 on charges including rape, incest and sexual battery by an authority figure. The Knox County Criminal Court trial pitted Richards against his adopted daughter, Amber, who was an adult when the trial started. Knox News typically does not identify victims in sexual abuse cases, but Amber Richards agreed to be named after the trial. David Richards, who was sentenced by Judge Stephen Sword to 12 years in prison, sought a new trial, but after a multi-day hearing, Judge Sword signalled very clearly that he had not been swayed from his belief that Amber Richards told the truth. See this video.
Glad that I can finally move on with my life, and I didn't really do this for me. I did it so it didn't happen to anybody else, and so that nobody else is in the same situation as I am, especially because they kids, they don't deserve to go through things like that. And if I'd be the one to make sure that it never happens again, then I don't want to do that.
The chrism oil for the forthcoming coronation of King Charles III was consecrated in a religious ceremony in Jerusalem on Friday. This was carried out in one of the city's holiest Christian sites, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The oil used to anoint the king in the coronation is one of the most sacred and mysterious parts of the ceremony. A new quantity has been prepared that reflects modern animal-friendly sensitivities, so this oil will not include any ingredients from animals. Several clergy
was the Pope appealing for peace, or was he praying for peace?
And the same applies to the carrying drag.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what do you have to say about that, guys? Israeli settlers have attacked Palestinian villages in the northern occupied West Bank after 2 settlers were shot dead by a Palestinian gunman. 1 Palestinian man was killed and more than 100 others were injured in the violence near Nablus on Sunday night, the Palestinian Health Ministry said. Dozens of cars and houses were burnt, and this follows the killings of 2 Israelis, brothers from a nearby settlement along a highway. The Israeli military said it was continuing to search for the Palestinian who shot the brothers, and that it had moved in hundreds of extra troops. See this video. Hundreds of schoolgirls have fallen sick and scores have been hospitalized in Iran's holy city of Qom in recent months, with some parents and officials suspecting that they were poisoned. The authorities have launched an investigation into the mysterious wave of illnesses, but have not found any evidence of poison. No deaths have been reported. The incidents have prompted public anger, with some Iranians accusing the government of negligence, and some parents have refused to let their children attend school. In the latest incident, 15 schoolgirls were transformed to a hospital on February the 22nd, and the Qom news outlet said the students were in a stable condition and under observation. The first incident is believed to have occurred in November, when 18 schoolgirls in Qom were taken to a hospital after complaining of symptoms that included nausea, headaches, coughing, breathing difficulties, heart palpitations, and numbness and pain in their hands or legs. Since then, hundreds of students, mostly girls, have fallen ill with similar symptoms in a number of public schools which are segregated by gender. Dozens have received treatment, many others have been hospitalized. Authorities said they have not yet been able to determine the cause of the mysterious wave of sickness, despite conducting toxicology tests. Medical experts have not found any bacterial or viral infections in blood samples taken from the students, but the authorities have not yet dismissed the possibility that poisonous gas could have caused the illness, with some students reporting a strange smell in their classrooms. A school chaplain in the United Kingdom who claims he was left unemployable after he was fired and reported as a terrorist for questioning LGBTQ activists is set to appeal a legal ruling against him. Reverend Dr. Bernard Randall, an ordained Church of England minister, sued his former employer, Trent College, in Derbyshire, for discrimination, harassment, victimisation, and unfair dismissal. Randall, a former chaplain at Christ College, Cambridge, who served 5 years as chaplain at Trent College, said last September he was fired from the school because of a 2019 sermon that he delivered telling students they are entitled to make up their own minds about the claims of LGBTQ identity politics. After a hearing at East Midlands Employment Tribunal last September, Employment Judge Victoria Butler handed down a ruling against Randall last week that argued the duty to safeguard pupils from the risk of harm and the requirement to comply with the independent school's standards regulator outweigh the claimant's rights to express his beliefs in the manner that he did in a school environment. Campaigners hail a new law raising age of marriage to 18 in England and Wales. It is now illegal for 16 and 17-year-olds to marry or enter a civil partnership, even with parental consent. This is a significant milestone in child protection. The Marriage and Civil Partnership Minimum Age Act came into force on Monday, following a 5-year campaign, and will prevent 16 and 17-year-olds from marrying or entering a civil partnership even if they have parental consent. Campaigners have long argued that a legal loophole allowing 16 and 17-year-olds to marry with parental consent was being exploited to coerce young people into child marriage. This law makes it illegal to arrange for a child to marry, whether or not force is used, and regardless of whether the marriage is religious or legally recognized, with the new criminal offence carrying a sentence of up to 7 years in prison. This law will not change the age of marriage in Scotland or Northern Ireland, but will automatically recognise children married under the age of 18 as victims of forced marriage. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to the latest edition of, I haven't been drinking, honestly, the latest edition of Free Thought Hour. Now, we have our usual co-host, so I'd like to welcome Tercia to the show. How the devil are you in your darkened room?
Yes, I'm not photosynthesizing right now.
The author of the new book, Holy Queer, The Coming Out of Christ, the Reverend Carmen Michael Smith, said he expects its title to attract attention, but he aims to create a better understanding of himself, a self-described queer black man, and others like him who seek affirmation instead of rejection in black church circles. The God that we serve doesn't only bless one and let everybody else sit by and wonder why, he said in opening remarks for the event co-hosted with Pride in the Pews, an organisation that supports black LGBTQ Christians. And that same inclusive spirit is what we are seeking to have within the black church and the black community. In his critique of the black church, its congregations and its denominations, Smith said in interview that he hopes to link the story of Jesus leaving his tomb to a form of resurrection for both the black community and the LGBTQ people in it, who are often talked to and talked about, but rarely listened to. I want to put flesh on the experience of what it's like to grow up in the black church and be a part of this community that is marginalized and is a minority within a minority. Smith, an ordained non-denominational Christian minister, talked about his holy queer theology, how growing up in the black church influenced him, and whether he thinks Jesus is gay. New York City Mayor Eric Adams casually dismissed one of the USA's founding constitutional principles on Tuesday morning. telling those gathered for his annual interfaith breakfast that he can't separate his Christian beliefs from his public duties. Adams said at the main branch of the New York Public Library, where religious leaders from around the city were seated, "I can't separate my belief because I'm an elected official. When I walk with God. When I talk with God. When I put policies in place, I put them in with a godlike approach to them. That's who I am," he said. "I will always be a child of God, and I won't apologize about being a child of God," he added. In this respect, he agrees with Representative Lauren Boebert. See this video.
Tell me about no separation of church and state. State is the body, church is the heart. You take the heart out of the body dies. I can't separate my belief because I'm an elected official.
The church is supposed to direct the government. And I'm tired of this separation of church and state junk. That's not in the Constitution. It was in a stinking letter, and it means nothing like what they say it does.
We need to be the party of nationalism. And I'm a Christian, and I say it proudly. We should be Christian nationalists.
I'm now going to hand over to our Canadian correspondent, D.P. Higgs. Welcome, D.P.
Thank you, John. Here in British Columbia, there is a group of 180 pastors calling themselves the West Coast Christian Accord, who are protesting the delivery of sexual orientation and gender identity information in schools, also known as SOGI. They are attempting to appeal to the provincial government to withdraw the curriculum, stating that they are opposed to children being taught, quote, lifestyles that the Bible calls sin, unquote. One member, Laura Lee Thompson, who is running for a seat on the Burnaby School Board, calls SOGI a form of indoctrination and stated, quote, "We will not remain silent as children are brainwashed," unquote. As revealed in the latest census, the number of people identifying with all religions is in decline, with 52.1% of British Columbians having no religious affiliation. As the Christian piece of the pie chart continues to diminish, it leaves one to wonder if the group is really just concerned about competition in the indoctrination of children. Thank you. Back to you, John.
Thank you, DP. The chair of trustees at a mosque which was accused of turning a blind eye to extremist views prior to the Manchester Arena bombing said he would have done anything to prevent the 2017 atrocity. Arena suicide bomber Salman Abedi and his family worshipped at that centre, which was led by Fawzi Hafar, who said he felt Didsbury Mosque was being used as a scapegoat after it came under intense scrutiny during the Manchester Arena inquiry. Mr. Hafar said the mosque had no room for radicalisation. 22 people were killed and hundreds more injured when Abedi detonated his homemade device at the end of an Ariana Grande concert on the 22nd of May 2017. John Cooper, KC, who represents some of the bereaved families, previously told the inquiry that the mosque had failed to confront extremism in the run-up to 2017 and continues to do so to this day. He said the centre had turned a blind eye to extremist and violent views among parts of his congregation and had adopted a passive attitude towards the dangers of radicalisation. Speaking to a BBC Northwest, Mr. Hafar said, "How can people say we have radicalised or are radicalising people? My children could have been at the arena. There were Muslim children at the arena. What Salman Abedi did was evil, and he definitely did not become radicalised by listening to a 10-minute sermon here or joining forces with other so-called terrorists or other radicalised people at this centre. If we had known that Salman Abedi was a radical, if we were told by the security services or warned by the police to please watch out for this person, I would have done anything to prevent what happened. Anything." Don't forget to watch our chat show, Free Thought Hour, with guest Bryce Cornell, starting in a few minutes. This has been the weekly roundup of global atheist news. Our panel will be discussing these items in our Views on the News show tomorrow. Thank you for watching.